Hey friends, Shannon here. As you can see, I am in my car and we're gonna go on a little road trip. I am heading to Maine for Friendsgiving. I'm meeting a couple of friends up there and we're gonna have a little, mini Thanksgiving. And I'm going to take you with me. I live in Massachusetts, so going to Maine is not a huge deal. I go to Maine all the time. It's usually from Boston to the Maine border. It's like less than an hour. So it's usually a really quick trip. But where I'm going in Maine, it's about a 3 to 4 hour trip, depending on the traffic as I go through Boston and, of course, how fast I drive. So I'm going to take you with me, and we're going to stop at a couple of bookstores along the way. I've seen them as I've driven through Maine before, and but usually I don't stop at them because generally when I'm going to this area of Maine, I'm going there to ski, and I'm just looking to get there. And usually I'm driving up on a Friday night after work, and it's dark and the places are closed. So I've never really actually stepped foot in these bookstores, even though I've seen them many times. And I'm looking forward to checking them out today. It's time to hit the road. Hey friends, it's about a week later and I'm sorry that I never checked in after visiting these bookshops and things were just so busy. I was with my friends, we were making Friendsgiving dinner and things just were crazy, so I didn't get a chance to check in. But I'm here now and I will go over the bookstores that I visited and the books that I picked up at these bookstores. So the first bookstore that I visited in Maine was the Maine Bookstore, very simple, which was located in Oxford, Maine. And this is a used bookshop and it was my favorite essentially out of the three that I visited this particular weekend, and it like got tons of old books and nooks and crannies, and you could spend an entire day in there just digging through stuff. And at first it looks really tiny and you're going through and then all of a sudden you turn a corner and then there's an upstairs and you go upstairs and there's two other big rooms. I mean, the place just had so many books in there and some good ones too. There was actually a first edition of The Color Purple by Alice Walker that I was planning on picking up. But then when I looked at it, it actually had some mold and stuff in it. So I decided not to pick that up. But I was really excited when I saw that. They had some great Everyman's Library hardcovers. There was a whole section on Westerns. It was amazing and so many good things. I could have walked out of there with like 50 books, but I controlled myself, especially since I actually was on a time crunch. I didn't get there as early as I'd wanted, and I needed to be somewhere by a certain time. So I could only spend a little bit of time in this bookstore. So I do plan on going back next time I'm in this area. So I did pick up a couple of items at the Maine Bookstore. The first is Shannon by Gordon Parks. Now, I saw a book with my name on it and I picked it up. It was coming home with me. I did not care what it was about. I do not know anything about this author. He's on the back, Gordon Parks, and it has my name on it. I'm taking this home. I don't care what it's about. I don't care who the author. I don't know anything about it. I am going to need this book at some point. There will be some reading prompt someday that will require me to read a book with my name on it. And now I have it. So apparently this book named Shannon by Gordon Parks was published in 1981. And this apparently is a first edition. And it's a story of passion and fate that sweeps from the mansions of New York's wealthy Irish to the drab rooming houses of the working class poor they employ. Shannon traces the lives and loves of two couples ensnared by their dreams. So this is set in New York in 1913. Done. There's apparently some guy named Kevin falls in love with a woman named Shannon. I mean, yeah, like this is great. So this definitely came home with me. I did spend a little bit more money than I really wanted to, but it was a first edition. But I know nothing about the book, so I don't know if what I paid for it is appropriate. I have never heard of this author in my life, and I've never heard of this book. Okay, so the other thing that I picked up, I was so excited because I've actually had this on my list of books I wanted to purchase for a while. And I couldn't believe when I found this. This is a 6-book set of the Forsyte Chronicles, okay, by John Galsworthy. Now, if you remember, maybe in the early 2000s, 2008, 2009, there was a Masterpiece Theater / BBC adaptation of the Forsyte saga. And I watched that. I loved it. And those were based on these books. And from what I understand, the Forsyte Chronicles covers all of these books, but they were written as separate trilogies. So the first trilogy is called the Forsyte Saga, and it includes The Man of Property, In Chancery, and To Let. And the second one, I can't remember what this is called. I found it.
So the second trilogy is called A Modern Comedy, and that includes The White Monkey, The Silver Spoon, and The Swan Song. So the adaptation, the Forsyte saga, covers, I believe, these first three books. And I have read the Forsyte saga before, but I haven't read this trilogy, a modern comedy. And I do believe there's actually more. Galsworthy actually wrote another trilogy closing out the Forsyte family. What's amazing about this collection is that this is almost a pristine set from 1969. Okay, so here's the 1969 adaptation of the Forsyte saga. I don't even know who these people are, who these actors are, but here's another still from that. And I do not even think that these have been read. Like the spine is not cracked. The books are in pristine condition. And here's a cover. And like I don't even think that they've been read. Like 1969 pristine set, and I've actually had this on my list for a while, and I can't believe I found it, and I only paid $12 for it. So I am well pleased with my find from the Maine bookstore. The next bookstore that I visited on my travels through Maine was the Tribune Books and Gifts, and this is located in Norway, Maine, just down the street, not really far from the main bookstore that I just was at. You just pop down the street, and this it was cute. It wasn't as cozy or bookstore-ish. It just seemed kind of cold. But they did have an excellent used section. So they sold new books and they had a section for used books. And that's exactly where I went. And so I picked up a couple of New York review books. I am obsessed with New York review books. They just really do a great job. And it looks like someone had dropped off like a ton of them because they had so many of the New York review books in there. And I only picked up three, and they were like $1.50 a piece. There was no way like I wasn't going to pass this up. So the first one I grabbed was Lucky Jim by Kingsley Ami. I'm guessing. I don't know if it's Amos, Ami. I don't know anything about this author, but this story does seem fun. Regarded by many as the finest and funniest comic novel of the 20th century, Lucky Jim remains as trenchant, withering, and eloquently misanthropic as when it first scandalized readers in 1954. We do love a good scandal. This is the story of Jim Dixon, a hapless lecturer in a medieval history at a provincial university who knows better than most that, quote, there was no end to the ways in which nice things are nicer than nasty ones. Kingsley Ami's scabrous debut leads the reader through a gallery of emphatically English bores, cranks, frauds, and neurotics with whom Dixon must contend in one way or another in order to hold on to his cushy academic perch and win the girl of his fancy. So you've got a 1950s English academia book. Seems interesting. The next is Loving by Henry Green. And this is set in the vast hereditary house of the Tennants, an aristocratic Anglo-Irish family, but the story mainly involves their servants. So we're going to be hanging downstairs in this book. The war has led to a scarcity of experienced staff, and when Eldon the butler dies, Rance, the head footman, is assigned his job. The other servants are taken aback by this irregular promotion, but lovely young Edith, a recent hire, is quite attracted to the older Rance, and a flirtation begins. Ooh, shocking. And it is Edith who discovered Mrs. Tennant's daughter-in-law, whose husband is fighting at the front, in bed with a neighbor one morning, scandalizing the whole household. Ooh, so we've got country house shocking things that happen. And the last book that I picked up at the Tribune Books and Gifts is Peasants and Other Stories by Anton Chekhov. So this is just a bunch of short stories by Chekhov. And the translation is by Constance Garnett. So that's an old translation. I think she translated a whole bunch of Russian novels like many, many, many years ago. So this is based on an old translation. And the last bookstore that I visited this weekend was the Book Nook in Bethel, Maine. I was staying at Sunday River Ski Resort, which is just down the street from this bookstore in Bethel, Maine. And a lot of this is a ski town, so when I was up there, the season hadn't started yet, so there weren't a whole lot of people in the area, so it was great. So I pretty much had the whole place to myself. And it's exactly what it says it is, a book nook. It literally is a little nook in this small building with a bunch of little local shops. It was really, really adorable. The selection wasn't amazing. Basically, it seems like, you know, at the end of every season, all of the owners of the ski houses clean out all of the, you know, the books that people would have left and just bring it to the book nook. So you've got like tons of what you would consider vacation reads. So nothing really, not a whole lot of classics. Lots of Stephen King, lots of mysteries, lots of romances, which is great. You know, if you're on vacation, you don't want anything heavy to read. But I just wasn't interested in any of those books. But I did find 2 books at the Book Nook. And the first one is The Recent East by Thomas Grattan. And I thought, first, I liked the cover. And the premise seemed great. I actually don't know who this author is. And this is set shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall. Beat Haas, who defected from East Germany as a child, is notified that her parents' abandoned mansion is available for her to reclaim. Newly divorced and eager to escape her bleak life in upstate New York, where she has lived as an adult, she arrives with her 2 teenagers to discover a city that has become an unrecognizable ghost town. So it's, you know, set after the fall of the Berlin Wall. So that seems interesting. And the second one that I picked up is Restless, Dolly, Maunder by Kate Grenville. Now, this was just recently shortlisted for the Women's Prize, and everyone that had reviewed it on BookTube, or at least the ones that I watched, had really mixed feelings about it. They couldn't understand why it was shortlisted or even longlisted. Nobody seemed to really like the premise or the tone of the book. And so that's why I never actually picked it up on my own. But I figured, you know, I only paid a couple dollars for this. I might as well see what it's about. And I read the first chapter and it seemed fine. And this cover is just beautiful. So if I don't like it and I end up agreeing with all of the other booktubers that didn't think it was that great, so be it. I didn't spend too much money on this book. So that is it. I visited 3 bookstores in Maine for a weekend that I was visiting some friends, and I had a really great time. And I will definitely be revisiting the Maine book house when I go back up to Sunday River for some skiing this winter. Now, have you been to any of these bookstores? Are you from Maine? Are there any other Maine bookstores that I should be visiting? Maybe on the other side of the state. I do spend some time in coastal Maine as well. So any bookstores on the coast, let me know. And next time I'm in Maine, I'll plan on visiting them. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining and have a great day. Bye.